are. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Councilwoman Chandler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fortune,
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. Councilman Shada,
Yes.
Councilman Todd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wolbrook. She's on mute.
Again?
Yes, I'm showing her's on mute. Can we get that off?
Yes.
Yes, from Councilwoman Wolbrook. And Councilwoman Wolf.
Yes.
Yes, okay, so it passes unanimously. Next item, business item E is public comment on non-agenda items. This is going to be a little interesting, the first time we've done this. I would like to make a few comments before we get started here. We're going to basically, we'll abide by city charter 5.1, council rules and regulations. They apply for remote participation as much as for in-person meetings. The citizen shall have a reasonable opportunity to be heard under such rules and regulations as council may prescribe. All public participants will be muted unless it's their turn to speak. Council will be enabled for microphone and video. Council will be asked to raise your hand in order to request the floor to speak. And I'm not able to see all of you, so we may have to have some cases where people speak up. Okay. Once the
I have a suggestion, John. I have a suggestion since you have some of us on phone only.
Okay.
Would you be willing to just identify each of us to ask if we have something to say so we don't have to try and interrupt?
I think that's a good idea. We could just kind of go round robin and I'll poll each one of you and you'll each have a turn if that sounds agreeable to folks. Okay. Any comment back on that?
No.
Okay. We'll try that. Okay. And I believe the city clerk may have received several emails regarding public comments, so we'll ask her to present those. Judy, do you have anything?
I have not received anything.
You haven't received any emails. Okay.
No.
All right. Well, in that case, do we have members of the public who would like to comment? And can they hear me?
Well, Mayor, if you can ask them to, under the participant function, to raise their hand, to do the hand raise function
Okay.
that Susan showed us.
Okay. So under the, at the top of your, in my machine, at least at the top of the scroll bar, there's a little participants icon. Press that, and then we should see. Okay, walk me through this, Judy. I see chat with a small 7 there. Is that the, do we have 7 people wanting to chat?
Hang on here.
John, if you go to the more, the little 3 dots where it says more, there's
Okay.
you can, at the bottom of that, you can raise your hand.
Okay.
Under participants.
Well, I found it under more on my machine. Okay, Nancy, could you raise your hand? Do the raise your
I
hand.
will see what happens when I do that.
We'll see what happens. Okay.
So I did it. Did anything happen on your screen?
I didn't see anything.
Yes, it does show up.
Okay, and now I'm going to lower my hand.
Okay, and it went away.
I didn't see any change.
So I guess the administrator will have to tell you when someone raises their hand.
And that was the only hand that went up, so it doesn't appear we have any public comment.
Okay. We're sure of that? I mean, I don't want to preclude somebody if they want to make comments, but it's hard to tell.
Okay, if we can just pause for a moment here. We were getting some feedback and I'm not sure who it's coming from. So I had to mute all to kind of correct that problem. So give me just a minute. I don't know. I don't know. We had the problem because Judith had her computer going and your computer going.
Anything to distract you. I mean, anything. Stuff I don't ever want to think about, but I'm ill. I can't do that. Where can a healthier heart lead you?
Is somebody talking? Is somebody talking?
It sounds like we're getting some background noise or something.
Oh, that might,
I'm
oh,
sorry.
I see.
I'm sorry, this is Jay Beaton. I'm just trying to listen to the meeting on Zoom. Did I do something wrong? Okay, this doesn't work.
Okay.
So I have tried to just unmute all council and mute everybody else. So
Okay.
what you do is, as you need to talk to anyone on staff, or staff needs to speak, they can either raise their hand, or you can call on them and I will unmute them, and hopefully we won't get the feedback that we're getting. So I don't know if anyone has like their phone going next to a computer, better audio or not, but that's typically when we get that feedback. We'll
Okay.
push through here.
Oh, we're not supposed to have our computers with us?
Well,
Maybe I'm causing the problem. I
It's-
have my computer in front of me because I wanted to see the packet. Maybe
It's the
that's me
audio.
that's causing the problem.
if you don't have Zoom on your computer, it shouldn't be a problem. But if,
Oh, okay.
and your phone going, then I think that might be what we're getting. But I think that's what it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe getting that resolved. Okay, now I'm seeing, it looks like Judith Chandler has moved on. She's using Amber's machine, apparently.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Mine's not working.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess this is all part of the learning process here. Okay, good. Okay, Judy, I guess let me ask again. Apparently we don't have any public comment then. Is that a true statement?
I have not seen any hands go up and I have not received any emails. So I would say that that's correct.
Okay. In that case, we'll go on to the next item. Item F, the consent calendar. We have 5 items on the consent calendar. I can read those, but I think probably everyone has had the opportunity to look at the agenda. Does anyone want me to? Okay, Judith?
I move that we approve the consent calendar items 1 through 5 as written.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, I will call the vote. Please reply with a yes or a no. Councilwoman Chandler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fortune,
Yes.
Mayor Graham votes yes. Councilman Shada? Councilman Shada?
Uh-oh.
I'll come back to him. Councilman Todd?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wolbert?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wolf?
Yes.
And Councilman Shada, are you there? Well, we'll count that as an abstention. Motion passes 6-0. Do you concur, City Clerk?
Yes, I do see that Councilor Shada's login or whatever, it does look like it's active and it's unmuted, so I'm not sure what happened.
Okay, well, if you get different status on him during the meeting, please interrupt and let us know.
Definitely.
Okay. Okay, new business. Next item, G1, resolution number 1620, a resolution declaring a local disaster. Okay.
I move we approve resolution 1620 declaring a local disaster.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, that was from
Susan Walbrook.
Wilbert. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, any discussion?
I'd like some discussion.
Okay, Councilwoman Wolf, you have the floor.
Thank you. I am interested in expanding on what it says to include a resolution that we close the incline and eliminate the bus shuttle service.
Okay. Do we have a, so that would be an amendment? You're making a motion for an amendment. Do we have a second for that?
That would be
Oh,
a
can we
friendly
have any
amendment. And I
Can
think
we
at this
have
point,
any-
it's open for discussion.
Yeah, I was going to say, before I'm asking anybody to amend, I just didn't know if we could perhaps have some discussion about it. And so the reason I'm proposing this is that it doesn't make sense to have a bunch of people crowd into the shuttle bus when we're supposed to keep people like 6 feet away from each other or more. And I also don't think it makes sense to have all those people up there continuing to go up the incline. And you know how, and I think this is disgusting, and at first I didn't believe it until I saw some videos, but apparently a lot of the incline users like to pee and poop just on the ground. Maybe they think the porta potties are too gross or something, but it's very unsanitary, and I just don't think we should keep it open given the crisis.
Could I comment?
You have the floor.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think, Julie, I don't want to amend my motion, but I would like us to direct staff to look into doing both of those things, the pros and the cons, discussing closing the incline with Colorado Springs and discussing the pros and cons of stopping the shuttle up there, because I think your points are very valid.
Well, why, if they're valid, why would we postpone it when we're going to infect like a ton more people while we're postponing?
Well, because we don't have the authority to close the incline. That's Colorado Springs Park. And I'm just not yet prepared to shut the shuttle as part of this. But I'm open to
Why?
further discussion and input from folks.
Okay.
Why,
Council,
can you tell me, may I ask Nancy a question about this discussion?
well, can you hold that for a second? Councilwoman Chandler's had her hand up. I'd like to recognize her. And then we have also
Okay, I'm
Roy to speak. And then we'll
I'm
get back
sorry,
to-
I couldn't see her.
I understand, yeah. The floor goes to Councilwoman Chandler.
Well, you know, if we're going to declare an emergency, we have to, in my personal opinion, go by the current recommendations. And the current recommendations are that we should not be congregating in groups greater than 10 and stay 6 feet apart for isolation purposes. So I do really think that Julie has a very valid point. My other question about the resolution itself is, it's my understanding that it is in effect for 7 days. And, you know, because the COVID-19 virus is so fluid, should we not be considering expanding that to greater than 7 days?
Okay, good. Mr. Cheney?
Yes, just so you know, I am planning to talk with Mountain Metro tomorrow about this situation. So that's already been planned.
Okay.
Can you elaborate on that, about the, that's already planned? Can you elaborate on that, Roy?
Yes, I'm going to be with Brian from Mountain Metro tomorrow to discuss the transit. So we haven't made any decisions, but with what I'm hearing tonight, we can have a discussion tomorrow with them on their bus service and the safety of being on a bus that close to others. And they do have a policy in place of cleaning, but there are some issues. So tomorrow we were going to have a discussion about the transit services.
Okay. I believe Mayor Pro Tem Fortune had her hand up.
Oh, I just wanted to address, and Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, but your declaration was for 7 days. Once council approves the declaration, that's permitted until we stop it. Is that correct?
She's
You're
on mute.
Denise.
That's my understanding.
I'm still on mute, so I can't, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Jeff can, if you want to give your perspective, that's great. But yeah, I had 7 days and then you had to declare. Regarding the incline, Mayor Pro Tem, I believe you are correct. We have to go to the city of Colorado Springs to ensure that we can close it. So I think that's a great point to Councilor Wolf, that we talk to them tomorrow and see if we can move forward.
Hello?
With
Hello? Hello?
Hello, Mr.
Hi,
Shada?
John.
Mr. Shada?
I'm back.
You're back.
Okay.
Yes,
Mr. Shada,
I guess
Mr.
I would,
John, you've
yes, I
got,
guess I'd like to propose an amendment.
Oh, he missed it. He must have just come back.
yeah. John, apparently you missed it. We were, Judy, perhaps you'd like to restate what you proposed? Julie, could you restate that
Okay.
for benefit?
You want me to restate it? Is that,
Yes, please.
you were cutting out on me. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yes, if you would restate it, please.
Okay, John, my motion was to propose a friendly amendment to the resolution, which involved two things. One was closing down the incline for now, and the answer was we're not allowed to. We have to let the Springs decide that, which I guess we could always revoke their conditional use permit and then we would be allowed to do it, but that's kind of a time-consuming thing. The other thing I proposed is that we shut down the shuttle service because how are you going to keep people 6 feet away from each other? I don't know how many feet long it is and all that, but it seemed inconsistent to me with all of the advice we're getting to continue that shuttle service. So those were my two proposals as amendments to the resolution. And so now that I've said that, Mayor, may I ask some follow-up questions? Or are there other people with their hands up?
No, I don't see anyone else with their hand up right now, so you have the floor, Councilwoman Wolf.
Thank you. My concern is that I don't want to put this off for another week. I think that's putting our city in jeopardy. And I think it's very unfair to the shuttle drivers. But I'd like to know how many feet the shuttle is, because if we're not going to make a decision on this tonight, then at a minimum, I would hope that when Roy talks to the transit service tomorrow, that he's at least assured, if they're not going to shut it down, that the driver will keep everyone 6 feet away from each other. And I don't know if that means you can only have 4 people on the shuttle at a time or what, but maybe that would be the next best thing.
Do we have further, Councilwoman Wolpert?
Yes, we have someone who is attending the meeting. His name is Simon Jacobs, and he has his hand up for a while. And I'd also like to speak, but I didn't know if you noticed that he had his hand up. He's muted.
I'm sorry, I can't see him, and I have no awareness of him other than I saw a
Judy,
couple.
can you
Yes,
unmute
I could
Simon
see that,
Jacobs?
and I was planning on letting the mayor know that as soon as the council had a chance
Oh,
to kind of
okay.
focus on their.
Well, then I'll
Okay.
speak first, and then Simon can speak. Thank you, Judy.
Okay.
I guess my questions are, how are we going to enforce it if we do get Colorado Springs to agree to close the incline? And what does that mean for them in terms of closing one park and maybe not all the others? And we can have 10 people walking down the sidewalk in Manitou as well. I'm just not sure that I'm understanding this in terms of how it's going to be a help. I just saw 7 people walking down my street who clearly weren't 6 feet apart. I mean, where do we draw the lines on this? And then, yeah, I mean, I would assume the shuttle can enforce some sort of protocol by limiting the number of people who are on the bus and making sure that they know where 6 feet is. But again, I don't know how we enforce closing the incline because we're not in charge of it. So even if we ask Colorado Springs to do it, who enforces it? And or do we take that one step further and say that no more than 10 people can walk down our sidewalk? Or what about the BART trail? Or what about the Intamin? I just don't know where we stop with this. And those are some questions that I have that I just don't have the answers to.
May I
Okay.
respond?
Thank you. Councilwoman Wolf, we have someone in the audience who wants to make a comment, Simon Jacobs.
Well, can we have council done discussing before we open it up to the public, or?
Okay, you go ahead.
No.
You've got the floor then, Julie.
Okay, thank you. So Susan, I realize that if the if the incline were shut down, that we're not necessarily going to pay someone 24/7 to stand there and issue tickets. But at a minimum, it would eliminate, for example, all the buses of the Fort Carson soldiers coming every day to work out and that kind of thing. So it would provide some protection, even though it's not 100% guarantee. We're not going to have, armed guards there all day and all night.
Thanks.
And I guess my other comment is, I realize, I call that the slippery slope. Well, gee, if we fix one thing and we can't fix all the other 99 things, then maybe we should fix nothing. I realize that, you got to draw the line somewhere, just like the governor had to draw the line of 6 feet as opposed to 5 feet or 9 feet. You just got to draw the line somewhere. But I think when we're dealing with an crisis that affects all of our citizens in such an extreme way, that I think it's a cop-out for us to say, well, we shouldn't close the incline because some people might still go anyway. Or, well, we shouldn't close the shuttle, or we shouldn't close the bars and the restaurants because people might still walk down the sidewalk together. Just the fact that some people might violate things or be uncareful, I don't think that's an excuse for us to do nothing. So I appreciate that I agree with you. Closing down the COG won't solve all problems, nor will closing the shuttle prevent people from walking on Bar Trail or down the sidewalk. But I don't think that's a logical reason for us to not do anything to try and protect the public. That's the biggest part of our job.
Okay.
I mean, that's more important than deciding,
Hello?
that's much more important than deciding like who's going to be on the match council or something. We're talking about life and death.
Okay, I understand. Okay, I think you've made your point there, Julie. I'm going to ask to hear from the other council members who've not yet spoken, and then we'll ask Mr. Jacobs to speak. Councilman Shada, did you want to comment on this?
Yes, sir.
Please comment.
Yes, I would. I am looking at the incline site right now, and I got some basic numbers. In March of last year, we had nearly 37,000 people who came to town. I think because this thing is likely not going to be a 15-day thing, and a lot of people are talking about this going on until April, May, maybe even June. I looked up the numbers for the other months. April, 29,000, May, 44,000, June, 50,000, and so on. To me, I think that because we have inadequate sanitary facilities for those people to wash their hands, use the restroom, and whatnot, I do believe it is in our authority to declare the incline as an attractive nuisance and a health hazard. And I do believe that we have the ability to close it immediately. The trailhead is in the city limits. I want to make another comment too, which is the incline was closed quite successfully during its 2 construction times. Signs were put up, and I think the vast majority of people respected that. I think it's incumbent upon this council to realize that, you know what, we do not have correct sanitary facilities for this attraction.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shada. Mr. Todd, do you have comments? Mr. Todd? Sounds like maybe we lost Mr. Todd.
Uh-oh.
I can
Mute.
see him.
Yes,
You can see him?
He's muted.
Judy, can you unmute Mr. Todd?
I will. I just want to let you know that also our attorney, Jeff Parker, has his hand up as well, just so.
I just understand, yeah. Okay, so we'll Mr. Todd and then Mr. Parker.
Sounds like he's still muted.
There he is. He's unmuted now.
Bob, are you there?
Yes, I am. I have two comments. One is that also to be factored into this decision is the fact that our emergency responders, if they get involved in an incident on the incline, will not be available to our community. I think our community needs those on call. My second comment is that I've been, for the last 10 days, sheltering at home or at my office under a medical directive. And I did send Judy a chat, that's a capability we have, that reads as follows. Would you ask that the mayor excuse me as you have a quorum and at the pace things are going, I cannot both perform my shelter at home medical obligations and pay adequate attention to, for example, the important matter presently being discussed. So I present that directly to you, John.
Okay, so you want to be, okay. Would you?
I'm sorry. This is Julie, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have no idea what Bob is talking about. Can you tell me what you think he said? I don't know what he's saying. Does he have a medical problem and he wants to leave the meeting, or what?
He has a medical, my understanding is he has a medical reason to leave the meeting.
Oh,
But
okay.
did we clarify that? Okay. Bob, can you hang in there just a little bit longer here and we'll get through this issue?
We'll see how it goes. If I leave the meeting, it will be because I have to follow some medical protocols here.
Okay. All right, thank you. In that case, we recognize Mr. Parker.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. I just wanted to comment on whether the city has legal authority to shut down the COG. And I think the city does, if you decide that's appropriate. And I've heard some good reasons why it would be. You basically control the city streets. You control access to the COG. So ultimately, I think you do have the authority to do that if you decided to do so. I also think that a conversation with the city of Colorado Springs probably wouldn't result in any objections. So if for some reason there were some questions about your authority, I can't imagine the city of Colorado Springs would disagree. So it's up to you to decide, but I did hear Councilmembers Shada and Wolf make pretty good arguments for why it might be a good idea to do so. And I just didn't want you to think you couldn't do that under your current authority. So I just wanted to give you guys some input on that.
Okay. See, Councilwoman Chandler, I see you raised your hand. If you could make your comment and we'll move.
I would just like to wholeheartedly agree with Councilor Wolf and Shada and Councilor Todd with regards to our first responders. If we're going to declare an emergency and we keep the incline open, it is an absolute hypocrisy in my view.
Okay. What I propose at this point is that we hear Mr. Jacobs and anyone else in the public, that we hear them. And then before we make any decision, I'd like to go around round robin. And at the risk of being somewhat repetitive, I would like us all to be clear on where we stand on this part of the proposal to do something with the incline. If that sounds reasonable, we'll take that course of action. Seeing no one seems to oppose that. So Judy, if we could now hear Mr. Simon Jacobs.
Hi, I'd just like to say this is my first council meeting. I moved to Manitou about a year ago on Sandra Lane. So hello, everyone. I thought everyone made very good points there about the incline. I wasn't convinced at first. But what I think would be dangerous to see is if all the parks were shut, as I think those are refuges for people to go out and get some fresh air and be healthy as long as they're keeping their distance. I know the incline's a different matter because it's very hard to rescue someone from there, and I agree with the first responder comments, but I'd also like to reinforce that it may be a good idea to stop the shuttles running because I don't think people can keep apart there. So that's just my 2 cents about that. But I hope we can keep the parks and spaces open if people are keeping distances in general.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Judy, do we have anyone else who would like, that you know, that would like to comment?
I
Okay.
don't see any other hands raised at this time.
Okay, all right, thank you. In that case, what I'd like to do at this point is just go around round robin, and if we could just talk to the incline. I guess I didn't make comments, so I guess my thought would be, I would lean more towards approving the resolution as it is and giving ourselves a little breathing space to talk to the city of Colorado Springs in the very near future and to make a decision. I think we have the authority. I think some very strong arguments were made here to close the incline or to otherwise restrict it, but I would like to entertain that as kind of an administrative feature of the resolution. I'd like to go ahead with the resolution as it is. That would be my feeling. You know,
But what about the shuttle, John? Can you comment on the shuttle as well, please?
Yeah, I would be inclined. My thought on that would be to talk to Colorado Springs tomorrow. Roy has already planned to do that. I think it's a courtesy to Colorado Springs. I think administratively it would be very helpful if we can reach an agreement together, if we want to enforce that. That sets us off, that delays closing the incline by a day. I do think it would, it's a day that we could use that to spend that wisely. And right now I'm leaning towards closing the incline or at least shutting down the shuttle. That would be.
May I ask you a follow-up question about that before we vote?
You may, and then we'll go ahead round robin and query the rest of the council. So yeah, go ahead, Julie.
Just to help me with my decision here, what do you propose in the unlikely event that the Colorado Springs says we don't want to close the incline and we don't care and we don't want you to stop your shuttle? Then what are you going to do?
Well, then I think then I think we certainly have as Mr. Parker said, I think we've got the shuttle runs in our jurisdiction. We could certainly shut that down or restrict it.
Not until next Tuesday?
I think we could. I would defer to Mr. Parker on that, but I think we could do it in a day. I think it's an administrative.
I mean,
You don't need to have an extra.
Julie, can we?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Wolf.
Sorry, Mr. Parker, could you respond to that part?
Yeah, you have the authority to do it administratively as the mayor or as a city administrator. You don't need to have another council meeting to do that if that's the direction that you or the city administrator thinks appropriate during the emergency.
Okay. Councilwoman Wolf, did that make sense?
Yeah, I guess what I'd want to know is some kind of promise or assurance that if you can't talk to Colorado Springs tomorrow because they don't call you back, or if they say no, if I have some kind of assurance that you're going to go ahead tomorrow no later than 5 p.m. and announce the closure of the incline and the shuttle, then I'd be inclined to give you 24 hours just so you can be nicey with Colorado Springs. But if you're not comfortable making a definitive decision about that today, then that would definitely affect my vote.
Okay,
so
understood.
my question is, are you prepared to go ahead and close down the shuttle and the incline tomorrow by 5 p.m., regardless of how Colorado Springs responds? Or if they say they want to discuss it next Friday, a week from Friday or sometime later, yeah, I just want to know where you stand.
Personally, I don't, we've established, I think, a pretty good relationship over the last several months with the Colorado Springs Parks people and with the city of Colorado Springs in general. I think we can do this cooperatively, and I don't think it's going to take more than, I would say, a day or two, but there's no assurance that would be the case. So I guarantee you that it's.
But you don't want to assure me that you will issue this proclamation tomorrow by 5, regardless of Colorado Springs. You just only want to assure me that you have high hopes about their response, but you don't want to promise, right? I mean, do I have that right? It's a yes or a no.
I am not going to promise, no.
Okay, okay,
you
that's
want-
fine. I just needed to know. Thank you.
Okay,
I'm
sure.
done.
Now what I'd like to do is pull council, go round robin. Judith, I see you have your hand raised. Let's start with you.
You know, our job is to protect the citizens of Manitou, including our first responders. And so the only conversation we should be having with Colorado Springs is to tell them tomorrow morning that we as a council decided Tuesday evening to close the incline. We are in a pandemic. We are in a pandemic. And I speak to you and not only as a city councilwoman, but as a healthcare provider of 26 years. I've seen a lot of it firsthand, like front and center at the bedside. We do not have enough test kits. We don't even know the scope of this virus. We need to tell city council tomorrow that we as a group voted to protect our citizens, close the incline and the Metro bus until this pandemic has, until we're below the safety curve, period.
Understood, good point.
Dr. Jeff Parker has told us that we don't need their permission. We need to do that this evening. And tell our residents we have their safety in mind, and Colorado Springs should not be weighing in on our job to protect our residents right now.
Okay. Understood. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Fortune.
Yeah, I am not inclined to tonight say that we are closing the incline or stopping the shuttle. I'm much more inclined to take the responsibility tomorrow after Roy gets a little bit more information to close the shuttle, because I see much better reasons for doing that than for closing the incline. You know, the governor has been telling folks to get outside. I think we can put into our education, you know, don't do this, don't do that, whatever. But I am not an advocate of directing that the incline be closed at this point. I would much rather wait or pre-make the decision and tell John if Colorado Springs doesn't close it, then the mayor will make that decision. I would much rather tell our mayor and our city administrator to go out and get additional information and to say that we are very, 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 very concerned about this and would prefer that this happen. I'm just not willing at this point to direct it. So at this point, I'm not willing to change my motion that I initially submitted to approve the resolution as written.
Thank you. Councilman Shada.
Yes, I think it's pretty darn clear that with essentially 1,200 people being attracted to the incline on a daily basis, that's just using one of the months I gave you, okay? That's a quarter of our population. We have plenty of hiking amenities for our population in our community, and a small number of visitors from Colorado Springs, in which we have plenty of opportunities for people to be outside, okay, and recreating. I think that if we close the incline, the transit thing will take care of itself, okay? We won't have 1,233 people a day trying to access those transit vehicles. That's going to dramatically reduce, essentially, the unsanitary situation on there, okay? I sent everybody on council, essentially, by email that you can look up my proposal, and I guess I would like to hear a second, because I think that when we have a master's degree nurse, okay, telling us, okay, this is the right thing to do, okay, we ought to do it. And I think by informing the city of Colorado Springs that it has been closed, it takes a whole political bailiwick off their plate. They don't have to say, oh, we want to keep it open, and then what, against our wishes? I don't think that's the right thing to do.
Okay. All right. Thank you,
So
Mr.
I would like to propose a specific amendment to this resolution.
Okay. John, right now what I'd like to do is just poll council, and can we come back to your
Certainly. I can.
That'd be okay. Good. Thank you. Okay. Councilman Todd, are you there? Councilman Todd? Okay.
I was just looking, it looks like he's dropped off the meeting.
Okay. Councilwoman Wolbrook?
I would like to leave this emergency resolution as it is. I would like to give Denise and Roy and the mayor the ability to move forward on a quick basis, but I think given how much progress we've made on the incline and the fact that we do have a team that's working to negotiate to make things better long-term, not just right this minute, that those phone calls can be made tomorrow morning. They can be accompanied by a strong sentiment that council is going to move in this direction, but we want to be a team player and we want to do this as a unified approach so that basically for all those people who use the incline for whatever reasons, whether we are supportive of them tonight or not, they understand that this is a joint decision. It's not a Manitou decision, it's not a Colorado Springs decision, it's a joint decision. And it's essentially going to happen because we don't have, like we have at Garden of the Gods, we don't have restrooms there. We just have some porta potties. And there's a whole lot of other issues too. And I think that that would be my preference, is to let our staff handle this tomorrow. I think everybody has a strong feeling about how it should go. It's just a matter of how it goes and whether it goes tonight, which we can't really do anything tonight about closing it anyway. And tomorrow it might just come off as a much better attempt at governance.
Councilman Rober.
Susan, how about the other part? You didn't talk about the shuttle.
Julie, it's your time. We're going alphabetical order, so it is your turn, but please be recognized. Okay, Julie, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'd like to put the floor back to Susan and ask her, what is your position on closing the Metro bus, please?
I don't know that they can maintain the safety that we have, and I think Roy will get that information tomorrow. My hunch is that if you looked at their website today, you saw that they're losing drivers and cutting routes. So I think that they're not going to be the biggest issue in this, and they're also not going to be the bigger issue going forward and negotiating with Colorado Springs about the incline. And I think we are at an opportunity before this pandemic, and hopefully the after comes soon, where we're going to be able to make some progress on changing the way the incline is used. So I guess in answer to your question, I think Mountain Metro will be happy to not run that shuttle. We still will pay for it because we already paid for it, or we are paying for it. Not a big issue in a pandemic. I'm just saying it out loud. I think they're going to be happy that we're asking them to stop a route if they're losing drivers, and that's on their website if you go out and look at it.
I know, but does that mean you do want them to stop the route? I'm just trying to find out, are you a yes or are you a no on the motion to close the shuttle?
I wouldn't amend this emergency declaration with this. I'd give staff some time to talk to both Mountain Metro and City of Colorado Springs tomorrow and give them the strong messages that we've had here tonight.
Okay, thank you. I just really wanted to know how you felt about that before I spoke about my own feelings. I believe it's appropriate to close the incline and the Metro bus. And I realize we have a 3-3. We have a tie. So I don't know where that goes.
Okay. Yeah, at this point, I'd like to give Mr. Cheney an opportunity to speak. And if Ms. Howell would like to speak, and then Mr. Parker. So I'm showing Mr. Cheney is muted. So Roy, can you give us any thoughts you have on this?
Yeah, so I'm hoping again to talk to Brian tomorrow about shuttle safety. They have moved to a 10-foot distance now versus 6 foot. So it makes it very difficult to ride a bus 10 foot apart. So it definitely is an issue. And I'm hoping that we can figure something out tomorrow. So that's my plan at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Denise, do you have comments?
I will follow you guys' direction. If we have the authority to close it, and Jeff says we do, whichever direction you want us to go, I will reach out to the city tomorrow and let them know. I can do it either way, saying that council has declared this, or I can say council is giving a very strong direction and we need to get this done. You guys decide and I will follow your lead.
Understood. Thank you. Nancy?
Sorry. I would be willing to amend my motion to actually close the shuttle. That to me makes far more sense, especially given Susan's insights on that. I'm not willing to amend my motion at this time to close the incline. I do have I would strongly support the city, either Denise or John, talking with them tomorrow to encourage them to close it. But if the shuttle's closed, I think that pretty much would fix it. And I have a master's in public health, so I'm not completely ignorant of the public health implications here.
Okay, great. I would like to hear from Judith. You're one of our medical specialists here. So Judith, please.
Here's the situation I feel I'm in. I'm being asked to vote for a resolution declaring an emergency, a medical emergency like we have never seen in Manitou. And at the same time say, but we're still open for business. And that's not okay with me.
Okay.
So what I would be comfortable with is that we have an amendment that says, and within 24 hours of discussing this with Colorado Springs, we will be closing the incline. So if we don't have, that we will give everyone, all the stakeholders, an opportunity to talk with Colorado Springs. If Colorado Springs says no, we want the incline open and the shuttle open, I'm gonna have to call the governor on that one. I mean, that just does not make a whole lot of sense in the face of this pandemic. So this is how I feel about that. So you're asking me as a public servant to protect my residents at the same time that I'm hearing, well, let's not close a particular venue that thousands of people are using. It's kind of like saying, we have a Ferris wheel and we're going to keep that open, but the rest of the city is a disaster area. So if we put a time limit on talking to the Colorado Springs and get a yes or no, we have our city attorney that says we have the ability to close the incline. We're not saying forever, we're saying through this pandemic, because that is the rational thing to do. If we don't close the incline and we have COVID-19 people test positive, I don't know that I could look the residents in the eye and say, I feel like I really protected you here. So okay. if it's a 24-hour thing, within 24 hours, we will close the incline. I'm okay with voting for this resolution.
Okay. Mr. Parker.
Oh, thank you very much. I think I've already sort of made clear that I do believe the city has that authority. If anybody wants to argue over that, the city has authority to control its roadways.
Okay.
So at the very least, the city can basically make traffic restrictions in place on Ruxton for local traffic only, no incline traffic. But ultimately, this is a pretty serious issue. And I don't think anybody's going to be arguing with you over any reasonable measures that you take to try and prevent any further spread of the virus. So.
Okay. All right. Okay, yes. And okay, so looking at this, it does appear, as Councilwoman Wolf said, it looks like we've got 3 people strongly in favor of closing. That would be Councilwoman Chandler, Councilman Shada, Councilwoman Wolf. Mayor Pro Tem Fortune would be willing to hold and talk to Colorado Springs, I understand it, for the
well, and I actually said I would amend, if there's a second, I would amend my original motion. Since I made the original motion, I would amend the original motion to close or to stop the shuttle.
Okay. And when would you want that to go into effect, the shuttle stopping?
As soon as Roy can make it happen.
I could support that. I could support that, and Levi's, I would be willing to support that, and we'd still have the administrative ability to close the incline, the actual access to the incline if we wanted to do that. So we would have that, but I wouldn't necessarily see that as part of the resolution. So that's my 2 cents there.
May I ask a question?
Well, okay, Julie, I was going to ask if we have a second for Mayor Pro Tem Fortune's amendment.
I can't second it unless I ask a question first, because I don't understand part of it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were calling the question. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Please go ahead and ask
No,
the
I'm
question.
sorry. I wanted to ask a question.
Okay. Hey, ask the question.
So this is a question about the comment, as soon as Roy can make it happen. That's weird. He's not like the Wizard of Oz. I mean, he's just a person. He can make it happen whenever. He can call them at 10 and say, go home. He can call them at noon and say, stop service. I mean, what does that mean, as soon as Roy can make it happen? Can we be more specific and say it'll shut down within 24 hours, period? Would that be an acceptable amendment to Nancy's amendment?
Yes, I would amend it to say that the shuttle service would stop within 24 hours.
Thank you.
Assuming Roy can, assuming that the shuttle can, you know, I would think that that's possible, and I would ask that that's what happens.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yeah, Denise. Mm-hmm.
Just for direction, are you want us to shut down all the shuttles that are coming to town, or just the incline shuttle? Because we have another shuttle that comes that some of the workers may use. I don't know that. So are you asking us to shut down both shuttles, or?
No, I'm only asking for the incline shuttle.
Okay.
Me too.
Again, I'm not prepared yet to shut down all public transportation. That may come, but I would wait for state or regional guidance on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So Mayor Pro Tem Fortune has amended her motion. We haven't had a second on that yet.
Second.
I'll second it.
Second, okay. All right. Okay, so Mayor Pro Tem, would you restate that again?
Yes, I move we approve resolution 1620, declaring a local disaster, amended to include that the incline shuttle will be stopped within 24 hours.
Second.
Thank you. We have a second. Discussion now, and I see Councilwoman Chandler, please.
So what we're saying here now is we're going to stop the shuttle, but we're not going to stop people going up on the incline. If we look at Councilor Shada's numbers, people come to go on the incline. And if the shuttle is shut down, these people are going to drive their car into town. They're going to find a place to park, and they're going to get up there and they're going to get on the incline. And so stopping the shuttle is okay with me. But if we stop the shuttle, but we don't say, and within 24 hours of discussing this with Colorado Springs, the incline itself will be shut down. I still have a problem with that. That's a very Band-Aid approach. If you know the incline, if people want to be on the incline, they're going to find a way to get on the incline. And they don't have to take the shuttle. In fact, it's impossible to get that many people that go to the incline on the shuttle in a 24-hour period. So we know people are getting up there in other modes other than the shuttle. So I don't know why we're having a problem during this pandemic. It is a pandemic, people. We don't even have enough test kits. We don't even know the numbers of how many people actually have COVID-19. What we're saying is you can still do the incline, but we're going to stop the shuttle to get you there. But hey, if you can get up there in another way, by all means. I'm sorry, that just doesn't make medical sense to me. And oh, by the way, first responders in Manitou, we're stopping the shuttle. But if if somebody gets up on the incline and they have they have a problem, we are calling on you to go get them. I can't wrap my head around that. So, I mean, I think closing the incline bus and not the other buses. But if we don't close the incline, this thing has no teeth in it.
May I comment on that?
Okay, you have the floor, Councilwoman Wolf.
Thank you. I totally agree with you, Judith, and I would like, even just for the record, when we're done with this vote, I will be making a separate motion for us to close the incline, and then we can vote in a stalemate, and then the citizens will see who was willing to stand up for the city and who was too afraid to offend Mayor Suthers and didn't want to take a stand yet. And they'll be able to see. I would still like to have that vote, even though it'll be 3-3, but I think that should be separate from this issue, because if we can make some progress by at least eliminating the shuttle within 24 hours, that's why I seconded it. I would still like to have some progress, even if I can't have the full amount of progress that I think our citizens deserve.
So, Julie?
Yeah?
Julie? Or Mayor, can I speak?
I'm sorry, could you identify yourself, please?
John Shada?
Who's that?
This is John Shada.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. Okay, yes, John, you have the floor.
Yes, I guess so that we can clean this up, Julie, I guess I would like to, I sent the wording to all of you for my section 6, okay, including the city attorney. I probably, and if it passes or it fails, I'll also send it to Judy as well for the record. But I think we need to have a vote on my amendment.
And John, can you refresh our memories as to your amendment, please?
Yes, I would like to add number 6, the City Council of Manitou Springs declares the Manitou Incline as an attractive nuisance and health hazard. In the year prior, in March, the incline had 36,699 visitors. In April, 28,985. In May, 44,157. And in June, 50,492. And in July, 48,079, for a total of 208,412 visitors from March through July 2019. These visitors are encouraged to use free shuttle buses, which are often packed to capacity during transit from the parking area to the incline. Public restroom facilities where visitors might use the restroom and wash their hands is insufficient or non-existent for the number of visitors using the incline. Use of the incline property in surrounding properties to urinate and defecate, which is unsanitary and unlawful, has been frequently observed. By the way, I watched that 3 times today. Because conditions are unsuitable for public safety and welfare, the incline will be closed to the public immediately. I guess I'd like to have a second.
Okay, well,
I'll second that.
Second.
we have a motion and a second that Nancy made. Okay, so I'm gonna need a little probably direction from the city attorney. We have a motion and a second from Nancy. John he'd like to make a motion and there'd be support for his second.
This is an amendment to Nancy's main motion. And so, John, that takes the floor.
Okay, Mr. Parker, do you have comment on that?
So you're asking me for some complicated parliamentary procedure.
Yeah.
I'm actually not positive how that works. Typically, when there's a motion pending on the floor, you'll take them, and then you have an amendment to that motion. You can address the amendment first, and if it fails, you go to the pending motion. If it passes, then that'll be the new motion that you can vote on.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm not going to be a parliamentary scholar either. Hang on, Julie. So Nancy, okay, so you had the motion. Do you have any sympathy for, I mean, how do you feel about it?
Well, there's been no second to Councilmember Shada's motion, I don't believe. Or did Julie just second that? I'm sorry.
I did.
Okay.
Second it.
So you can have some debate on this motion now.
Okay, on John's
Oh.
motion. Okay. I see Councilwoman Chandler raised her hand.
Well, it's my understanding with Robert's Rules of Order, if Mayor Pro Tem Nancy Fortune would be willing to encompass John Shada's comments into her friendly amendment, we could do it all as one. That's my understanding, is if there's a motion and someone makes another motion, it can be incorporated into the first motion.
If Councilmember Fortune accepts it.
As long as she.
It's up to Nancy.
Right.
Okay. So, Councilwoman or Mayor Pro Tem Fortune?
No, I'm standing by my original motion with my original amendment as stated.
Okay, then it's my
Well, the
understanding.
truth is, may I ask a procedural question before we vote, John?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mayor,
go ahead.
Mayor John?
Yeah, okay.
Can't I vote for both of them? I mean, Nancy's eliminates the shuttle, and then John Shada's eliminates the incline. So they're not mutually exclusive. We could have a vote on each separate motion. Am I correct? Do I have that right?
I can address that if you'd like. So if Councilmember Shada's motion was like a separate motion, standalone motion for that after you voted on the initial one, that'd be fine. The way it was presented was it was an addition to the current resolution, and it would be amending Mayor Pro Tem Fortune's current motion.
So
Right, and since Mayor Pro Tem Fortune said no thank you, then my question is, we are entitled to just raise it as a separate motion after we're done with this motion. And I think your answer was yes, that's right.
You can do that, but right now it's still being presented as an amendment to the current motion, and it's not voluntary anymore. So you need to still vote on Councilmember Shada's motion. And if for some reason that fails as an addition to this, then you can bring it up again afterwards for a separate standalone.
Oh,
okay, so then the motion on the floor is Councilman Shada's motion, and that has been seconded. Do we have any further discussion on Councilman Shada's motion? We don't. Okay, John, could you just restate that? So we're going to be voting here pretty quick. Just restate that, John. And I don't think you need to read that whole paragraph. Mr. Shada? John?
oh dear.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, okay, so
So
were you able to hear the-
basically, the essence of the motion is that the city of Manitou Springs finds that the incline is an attractive nuisance that attracts literally thousands of people a day, filling up the shuttles, okay? And we do not have proper sanitary facilities for all of these visitors. We know that. In this public health situation, it's even more important that we have public health issues. By keeping it open, it means we put our first responders at risk, having to go up and deal in very difficult, awkward situations where they're supposed to be in protective gear, and we're asking them to go up and deal with guests on the incline. I mean, it's unbelievable to me that we cannot amend this thing with what I read into the record.
Okay, and I just wanted to be clear on what you're proposing here. Okay, so we have the motion, we have the second. Do we have any further discussion on Mr. Shada's proposal, his motion? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and vote. I will call the roll. I'll do this roll call style. So respond yes or no. Councilwoman Chandler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fortune,
No,
the mayor votes yes. Councilman Shada,
Yes,
Councilman Todd, or Councilman Todd apparently is absent now. Councilwoman Wolbrook,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wolf.
Yes,
I show 5 yeses and 1 no. The motion passes with Mr. Shada's amendments. Okay,
Mayor,
thank goodness.
excuse me, Mayor.
Oh, thank
I
God.
had a 4-2 vote.
Denise, yeah, Denise has the floor, or
This is Judy.
Judy, yes, okay.
And the
Yeah.
vote I heard was that it's a 2-4 vote. So,
No.
I'm showing 5 to 1. I showed Mayor Pro Tem Fortune as the only no vote.
Okay, I thought I heard you say that you were voting no.
Let me just run that so we have it for the record. I have Chandler is yes, Fortune no, Graham yes, Shada yes, Wilbur yes, Wolf yes, Todd
Okay.
absent. Is that what you have, Judy?
That's what we have.
Okay, everybody agreed that's how it went? Okay,
Yep.
thank you. I believe we're done with that.
May I ask a question, Mayor?
Well, we're about to move on to another item. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I
guess,
I thought we were supposed to approve the minutes at the beginning of this meeting. Did I miss that?
It was
We
on
did-
the consent calendar.
We did that as part of the consent calendar.
Oh,
So that's been taken care of. Okay,
oh, you mean when I voted yes to approve the consent calendar, that meant I thought the minutes were accurate? Is that?
yes, that's what that meant.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, then
there-
I didn't understand that.
Hey,
I
there-
thought
there-
that meant we're gonna go through all of that, but there's an error in the minutes that I'd love to correct, but I don't know if procedurally you're gonna allow me to raise that since I missed it earlier in the meeting.
Yeah, no, we've crossed that bridge already.
Okay, well, just for the record then, since we've crossed that bridge already, I would just like it in the minutes that there is an incorrect statement on page 47, and it's the paragraph that involves Counselor Wolf, and specifically the error is when it indicates what Mr. Pearson said during that meeting. That is not a correct summary in my estimation of what the Mr. Pearson responded to when we were talking about parking at the incline. So I realize we can't go back over that. It was my ignorance that I didn't know what it meant when you called the consent calendar, but I would like that on the record that I believe that's an incorrect statement of Mr. Pearson's testimony or position. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Councilwoman Chandler?
Just a point of clarification on what we just voted on. I know that we just voted to close the incline. Did we also vote to stop the incline metro, or is that now a separate issue? Or did we decide to vote for the resolution as a package deal, including the incline and the incline bus?
I guess I was under the impression the only thing we voted on was the amendment to amend Nancy's motion. I believe this resolution is now properly before us to vote on. Which
Thank you. I just wanted
includes
some clarity on that. That was my understanding too, but I just wanted clarity. Thank you.
Nancy's addition that she has some language that's regard to only the route for Mountain Metro to the incline. Is that not correct, Nancy?
Correct.
So I believe this whole bailiwick now is waiting for us to vote on. I thought what we just voted on was only the modifications to 1620. I don't think we passed the main resolution.
Thank you. That was my understanding as well.
And I actually agree with that. I should have spoken up quicker. I apologize. But I do think you need to vote on the main motion now, the main resolution, and which is Nancy's motion as modified by Councilmember Shada's amendment.
So
Okay,
that means that there's no discussion about the shuttle in this motion. Is that right, Jeff?
So the way I understand it right now, Mayor Pro Tem Fortune can correct me if I'm mischaracterizing her motion, but we now have the motion dealing with closing down the incline or the Metro shuttle going to the incline by the end of the day tomorrow, along with Councilmember Shada's recommended revisions dealing with closing down the incline.
And the passage of resolution 1620.
Right, and those two additional conditions will be added to resolution 1620.
Thank you.
Is that the right number for the resolution? I'm sorry, whatever the number is for the resolution. We'll
160.
add those. Yeah, we'll add those to the final version.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we already had a motion and a second for that. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the vote on this. Okay, Councilwoman Chandler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fortune,
With severe reservation, yes.
Mayor votes yes. Councilor Shada,
With enthusiasm, yes.
I'll call Councilman Todd. No response. Councilwoman Wilbrook,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wolf.
Yes.
Okay, so I have 6 yeses and 1 abstention. So motion passes. Okay, we all good?
Is that an abstention or an absence?
Technically, it should be an absence because he's no longer here.
Okay,
So,
Yeah, he had a medical emergency. He told us.
yeah, okay. All right, thank you for correcting me on that. Okay, next item of business, Resolution 1720. A resolution of the City of Manitou Springs, Colorado, adopting a remote participation in remote meetings policy, emergencies only. Would anyone like to entertain a motion?
Yes, I move to approve resolution number 1720, a resolution of the City of Manitou Springs, Colorado, adopting a remote participation and remote meeting policy, emergency only.
I second.
The motion is second. Any discussion? Okay, there being no discussion, we'll call the vote. Councilwoman Chandler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fortune,
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. Councilman Shada,
Yes.
call Councilman Todd. Hearing nothing. Councilwoman Wolbrook,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wolf.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Next item of business is appointment of Andrea Sutella as a regular member of the Open Space Committee.
I move that we approve the appointment of Andrea Satella as a regular member of the Open Space Advisory Committee.
Do we have a second?
Okay. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
an FYI, it appears she is in the audience, and I've unmuted her in case anyone wished to speak to her.
Okay. Is that-
Yeah, hi there, I'm here. Do you guys have any questions?
Do we have any questions?
No.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yep, no problem. Thank you, guys.
for your service, Andrea.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I will call the vote. Councilwoman Chandler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fortune,
Yes. With enthusiasm.
okay. It's nice to have enthusiasm. Mayor votes yes. Councilman Shada? Councilman Shada?
Oh, he has to unmute himself.
Yes.
Councilman Shada? Yes, okay. Councilman Todd? Councilwoman Wolbrook?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wolf?
Yes.
Okay, it passes 6-0. Next item of business, proclamation celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Colorado Springs Youth Symphony Association. We have a motion?
Yes, I move we proclaim and approve the proclamation celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Colorado Springs Youth Symphony Association.
Second.
Second, okay, motion is second. Any discussion?
I would just like to say, since I brought this to the council, this is such a wonderful organization. Anyone knows me knows that music is very important for all kinds of reasons. And the fact that the Colorado Springs Youth Symphony is doing a lot more in Manitou now, and I find that very exciting. So this is a happy thing to bring to the community.
Great.
Is that Nancy talking? Who's talking?
Yeah, it's Nancy.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Okay, hearing none, I will call the vote. Councilwoman Chandler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fortune,
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. Councilman Shada? Councilman Shada?
Yes, sir.
Hi.
Okay. Councilman Todd, Councilwoman Wolbrook,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wolf.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Next item of business, a proclamation declaring National Single Parents Day on March 21st. We have a motion.
Yes, I proclaim March 21st as Single Parents Day and approve the proclamation for the same day.
Second.
Second, we have a motion to second. Any discussion?
Yes, the person who requested this, Janice Muglin, could not be on the call tonight. This is something she's done every year for many years now and has been recognized by the city of Manitou Springs as well as the county, city of Colorado Springs, and the state of Colorado.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? If not, we'll take the vote. Councilwoman Chandler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fortune,
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. Councilman Shada,
Yes.
Councilman Todd, Councilwoman Wolbrook,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wolf.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Next item, approval of resolution number 1420, a resolution demonstrating support to apply for a $500,000 Multimodal Opportunities Fund grant for Creek Walk Trail Phases 4 and 5, in confirmation that the city will apply anticipated funding from a Colorado Department of Transportation Alternatives Program grant as the 50% match. We have Karen Brechtold in the audience.
Good evening, Mayor Graham and council members. This is Karen Berchtold, Senior Planner with the Public Works Department. The item before you tonight is to approve a resolution for a new grant opportunity that we are applying for. It's a grant for $500,000 for survey, design, and construction of phases 4 and 5 of the Creek Walk Trail. This grant has a requirement for a 50% match. And you may recall about a month ago, I was before you requesting approval of a resolution for another grant that was for $250,000. We were advised we could increase that to $500,000. So we have an opportunity to secure almost $1 million for the costs for phases 4 and 5. These are not typical grant programs that we go through our participation in PPACG. They're new opportunities, and so it's great that they have come before us. And we expect that this work would occur between 2021 and 2023. For this particular grant before you this evening, the Multimodal Opportunities Fund, the funding for this grant has come from the state's general fund. So again, it is kind of a unique opportunity for us. So I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have about this.
Council, do we have questions for Karen?
I do.
Okay, Julie, you have the floor.
Hi, Karen. It's Julie Wolf.
Hi, Julie.
Hi. So do I understand it correctly then that with this grant, we have to come up with $250,000 of city tax money as our matching fund?
Well, actually, we need to provide a 50% match. The other grant that we're applying for through CDOT is for $500,000. So we would use that grant as the match to this new grant.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you for clarifying. That's all I have.
Do we have any additional questions for Karen? Okay, hearing none. Any discussion? Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Council, any discussion? Okay, hearing
I'd like
none.
to make a motion if we're ready.
Sorry, yes. I'm sorry. I should call for the motion. Yes.
I'd like to approve
Is
resolution.
that Nancy?
That's
Yeah,
Nancy.
sorry, Nancy. I'd like to move we approve resolution 1420, demonstrating support for application for $500,000 multimodal opportunities fund grant for Creek Walk Trail phases 4 and 5.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Okay, there being no discussion, I'll call the vote. Councilwoman Chandler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fortune,
Yes.
Mayor Graham votes yes. Councilman Shada,
Yes.
Councilman Todd.
Yes.
Councilman Todd? I'm sorry, John. I
No,
think
that
you-
was John.
That was John. Okay. Councilwoman Wolbrook,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wolf.
Yes.
Okay, so motion passes 6-0.
May I
Thank
make a comment?
Yes, Julie, go ahead.
Hey, Karen,
Yes?
that's awesome. That's awesome that you were able to get that. Kudos to you and your staff or whoever helped you find this grant source, because wow, to have all our matching funds paid from another government source, that's like so ideal. I just wanted to commend you and thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, it's a great opportunity. And it's a grant that's really well suited to this type of project.
Well, good for you and whoever was helping you with that. I just really appreciate it. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Very good.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. I will ask briefly, does anyone want to take a break? We're getting close to the end, but
And I had to apologize for running off because my dog would have been communicating with all of you had I not, so.
oh, okay. All right, so, okay, hearing no calls for recess, we'll push on. Item 7, G7, adoption of citywide signage plan and approval of resolution number 1520, a resolution in recognition and support of the Highway 24 sign design plans within the city of Manitou Springs. Okay. I don't see that we have anyone identified. Do we have someone identified to discuss this?
So this is Natalie. Can you hear me?
Yes, Natalie, you have the floor.
Okay. So yes, a couple parts to this. The first is that I was able to present to all of you the signage design plans several weeks ago, and I do know that Roy and the city would like to be able to move forward with using those designs as they're moving forward with citywide signage. So there is that piece. The other piece is actually a question for all of you. Did each of you have an opportunity to see the sign that Neil put together for the Highway 24 sign that was the actual size?
Yes, I did.
I did.
I did.
Is there anyone who didn't?
I did not. I did not.
I did not.
Okay. So in terms of this resolution, we were trying to move forward because we wanted to reach out to the business community for funding. At this time, we do not feel like this is the ideal moment to ask the business community for funding. So there isn't a rush on it. And so it's up to all of you whether or not you would like to approve this resolution with some of you not having seen the actual sized sign, or whether or not you would like to do it tonight. It's fine, one way or the other.
Well, Natalie, I'm comfortable moving forward with this because I can understand, I can see from the drawings, what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so unfortunately, I wasn't able to get down to City Hall by the time we kind of locked everything down there to go look at it. So I'm comfortable with, the submittal that you have in the packet.
Councilwoman Wolf, how do you feel?
I feel comfortable with the sign. I just am in the dark about how many will there be and where will they be, and will they be big or little, or, I just don't have much information about them.
Okay, so Julie, just to clarify, there's two different questions on the table tonight, and the one is for the Highway 24 sign, and at this point there'll be two, one at if you're heading eastbound and one if you're heading westbound, and then the other conversation is about the citywide sign designs, and that's, I think, more of what you're referring to in terms of the sizes and locations, and that's something that will be coming forward as we get to that point, but that'll be coming probably from Roy or the Public Works Department.
Oh, thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
Okay, Councilwoman Chandler?
I just, Natalie, this is Judith. I just have one question regarding the status of the artist. It's my understanding, we were discussing this, that she has moved out of state. And so do we own these drawings, and will we then be moving on with the exact drawings, or will she still be involved with the project going forward?
Sure. So we will own these designs, and in terms of moving forward, I think that we're going to use them as guidelines as opposed to the actual, identical designs for a number of reasons. And so a lot of it being everything from where we'll be sourcing our materials moving forward. There are a variety of unknowns. So I think that we really do, the adoption tonight would be to adopt them as a guideline. And then whether or not we choose to identically match them or not is up to us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I guess we could entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt citywide signage plan and approval of resolution number 1520, a resolution in recognition and support of the Highway 24 signage design plans within the city of Manitou Springs.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No further discussion? I think we had a pretty good chance to look at this a week ago. All right, in that case, it seems we're ready for a vote. Councilwoman Chandler?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ford?
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. Councilman Shada?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Todd? Councilwoman Wilbrook?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wolf?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. Okay, that brings us to item H, to receive or act on council correspondence. We can do this alphabetically. Councilwoman Chandler?
I just have one. I got a phone call from Reverend Susie Marin from St. Andrews requesting that we release the funds of $2,500 earlier than expected this year to fund the senior meals at the church. And she was quite concerned that we would have to cancel the senior meals. I reached out to City Administrator Denise Howell, and I just want to give her many kudos for making that check happen so that we can continue that program. So thank you so much for getting on top of that and making it happen this week.
Great. Thanks. Yes, thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Fortune?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, I have just one thing I think that's worth mentioning. I will be meeting with County Commissioner Stan Vanderwolf tomorrow to talk about several things. In particular, he is very concerned about the local economy. So he's trying to put together kind of a multi-jurisdictional group to address the economy of the local area. So I call that to your attention. It's a little premature to talk about how we might do some recovery out of this. I guess it's not premature, but we don't have any answers yet, but we're going to start working on that. Okay, Councilman
Don,
Shada?
could I just address that point, please?
Yes, please.
And I apologize for not saying this earlier. Neil Minch had contacted me, and he's starting to do some calculations on early numbers on how the economy looks for the future, and recommending, and I know Denise will talk about this later, but recommending that we cut, we look very closely at cutting as much as possible, as early as possible, until this all settles one way or another.
Okay.
So Neil's working on some analysis for us.
Great. Okay, well said.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I didn't catch who you were meeting with. I didn't hear that.
This is County Commissioner Stan Vanderwolf.
Got it. Okay.
He's our county commissioner, yeah. So,
That's all I needed.
okay,
Thank you.
good, great. Councilman Shada.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Councilman Todd, are you? Okay, he hasn't rejoined. Councilwoman Wilbrook.
Nothing to report either.
Okay, Councilwoman Wolf.
I have nothing to report, but I just wanted to see if I could do a follow-up on a previous report to see if Denise could update me on whether the Dave Wolverton issue with USGS has been resolved, and have they been paid, or are they still trying to hammer out some resolution?
Roy, do you want to take that one, or do you want me to?
Or I could address it too, probably.
Okay.
Julie, this is John, and Denise, Roy, and I have discussed this, and I've talked to Dave Wolverton, and I don't know that Dave is 100% satisfied, but we've done as much, I think, to answer his questions at this point as possible. I did ask him if he had follow-on questions. I gave him a couple of opportunities to do that, and he said he felt like what he had discussed with us was as far as he wanted to go with it. So I think we've done. I think Roy and Denise have done a lot of full work, a lot of research to try and address that answer. I'm not sure where we stand on the payment situation on that, but I think we've given Dave a good accounting, and he knows that if he had more to say, he could reach out.
Oh, thank you for that update. You know, what he was expressing to me in these emails was that there's nobody in the city public works department who's actually monitoring and making sure our aquifers are safe and that they remain vibrant and healthy as our mineral springs. And maybe it's because we don't have enough staff, or they don't know what to do, how to do it, or I don't know I don't even know if that's true, but who's responsible, if anyone? Is there somebody monitoring the aquifer? And I can't be more sophisticated in how I'm wording that. I don't know if they have to take measurements or water quality or what's involved, but he was very disturbed that no one's really doing that. Is anyone doing that? And if so, how often?
May I?
Yeah, Denise, yeah.
Councillor Wolf, what we're doing is, one of the things is USGS is doing some measurements. We also are doing at Public Works, and we have a book of all those measurements at this time. The Mineral Springs Foundation is also overseeing all aspects of that. And we right now have USGS planning to come in April to give you, the council, an update of what they're doing and how they're doing it, so you have more detailed information.
I might mention that Dave is aware of that the USGS is going to come, and he's been invited to attend. When I talked to him about that, it was probably 10 days or 2 weeks ago, and he wasn't sure what his schedule was like. I think he's probably going to be sticking around town now, so hopefully he'll be able to attend that meeting and give his input.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you. Thank you, both of you, for the update.
Right.
I have nothing else. I have nothing else.
Okay, and I'd just like to make one go back. I meant to say this, but I really want to commend Denise and Roy and city staff for the work they've done. They've worked like, as a friend of mine would say, rented mules. They've worked really hard. They have helped Manitou to take point on this coronavirus problem. Other city managers have been calling and asking for advice, asking how they established the precedents that they've established here, largely by working over the weekend and working long into the night and that sort of thing. So thank you very much, and please extend your appreciation to the rest of the staff. Okay, next item of business is the city administrator report. Roy, do you want to go first?
Do you want to go first? We have a very extensive update, as you can imagine, with everything that is happening. So,
right.
Roy, would you like to go first?
Sorry, I couldn't get my mic to unmute. Just so you're aware, we're going to keep the pool closed until April 8th to follow the state mandate on gyms. So we'll keep it closed until April 8th, so it's a 30-day closure. Also, we are moving the 30-minute parking free to 1 hour to allow people to get in and get their food, since they can't stay in the restaurants, give them more time to take care of business while they're downtown for the residents, etc. That's all I have.
Thank you.
So you're giving the rest for me to respond to, huh, Roy? So this has been a
parking
very,
downtown is 1 hour free to start. Yeah. Hey, I'll let you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
bye.
John Shade, you are not muted. That sounds like John talking to someone else in the back.
Yeah, John, sorry, we're picking you up. Denise has the floor.
So first, Counselor Wolf, I wanted to respond on another request you had last week that I followed up on, and that was the HR process. And if people were being notified if they did not get an interview. And you are correct, they were not. So I've asked HR to put those steps in place. And we're looking at what other steps we can put in place. Right now, I've put a freeze on all software, so we cannot purchase any software to enhance that. But I'm seeing what steps we can do manually. So I wanted to let you know that we followed up on that. Today I went around and I visited all the businesses on the corridor, gave them my business card, asked them to follow up if they have any questions, concerns, and ask how we could support them. So I have done that and already have received a couple of emails with some thoughts, and we appreciate that. And I told them I would try to do that weekly right now as we support them through this very difficult time. We've closed all public meeting places, as you know, and a meeting with individuals one-on-one, and only doing it in the council chambers with a checklist of cleaning up after that if need be. We've enhanced all cleaning for public restrooms and city facilities to 3 times a day. We've initiated a work plan for remote access, and we're starting to stagger leadership days so that we make sure that we have a leader in. So for instance, Public Works, they have different days that they're teleworking and different days that they're on site. We've closed both the fire and the police facilities to public access at this point. If anyone is feeling sick, we are asking them to go home, or if their family member is feeling sick. We did purchase 4 new computers. We're hoping that they're in tomorrow so that we can do more teleworking as needed. We put a hiring freeze on and a spending freeze, only emergency purchases at this point, and no software. We're looking at all of our grants that have a match, and we're seeing if we can postpone those at this time. We're monitoring revenue weekly. We are talking with businesses weekly, and we are getting numbers from Neil Mitch regarding parking, which gives us some indication. We're tracking all of our hours and our purchases for COVID-19 because we did declare a state of emergency. That means that we can go into FEMA. We don't know if there'll be any reimbursement or how much, but we are now have a very thorough tracking process in place to do that. I am working with St. Andrews. I spoke with the Reverend today. We're working on how we can support them and keep updated of what they need, and any way that we can support them, and if they need additional support from funding, etc. We're waiving all late fees for water. We will not do any disconnects for water due to non-payment, and we're setting up any payment arrangements over the phones. I am working on some other options, but I don't have those secured at this point. We talked about the extending parking. We're encouraging employees to wash hands on a regular basis. City Hall, we're wiping down and spraying as much as we can. We're wiping down vehicles after use. We're doing all meetings remote at this point. We're meeting twice a week with the regional leaders, and we're meeting every morning with management staff via Zoom to get updates by department and what we can do. And we're encouraging all 10-foot distances as much as possible. Those are the updates that I have at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that covers everything. Do anyone have any questions or follow-ons?
John,
May I ask Denise?
Oh, sorry.
Just a second.
Go ahead.
Nancy had her hand up first.
Just 2 things. One is about our meeting next week, and 2 is just asking the council members if anyone had anything that they would like to put on the agenda in the future.
I would.
Okay. All right. Julie, you've got the floor.
Thank you. I would like to, for the agenda, and I would like to have some input from our city attorney about whether our employee manual or any policies or anything allows or prohibits city employees from advocating for or against any applicants to the planning department for permits. I don't need that addressed this evening, but I would like to have an opportunity to find out what Mr. Parker's advice or information is about that, based on the emails I got and talked about last meeting when Jeff wasn't there. I also wanted to suggest that perhaps we have a retreat, that we schedule a Saturday, or if necessary, I suppose we could schedule just one of our Tuesday night work sessions to talk about, so that I can be updated on what are the major things that each department is in the middle of working on, or contracts or things that are ongoing, and then to have a discussion about what we as a council would like to accomplish in the next 12 months. I kind of thought the retreat that was scheduled before would address that kind of thing, but it wasn't. It was about the flip charts and the manners and all that. But it would really help me to know where have we been and where are we going with some kind of a meeting like that. And that's all.
Julie, if I might respond, I think you make a couple of really good points there. And going back to the retreat that we had in January, first a point I'd like to make is, I think you raised the question about agendas, and we talked about that a little bit. Really, I would welcome input if members of council have things they want on the agenda. Please bring that to my attention or to Nancy's attention. We'd be very interested in making sure that the things that council considers important do get action. Okay, so I'm going to try and remember at every meeting to solicit opinions for the agenda. That doesn't necessarily mean that they go on the next meeting's agenda, because we are trying to schedule work so that we can get some things done. But please be aware that you can contact me on that at any time. The other thing about, and we had talked about this at a work session, was the idea of having, I was thinking of a work session where we would talk about our goals and our priorities and things that we wanted to get done. Because really, if you think about what an agenda is, it's the back end of a work plan, and that's really the midsection of goals. We have goals, we have work plans, take it to council as an agenda. So I would like to know what your goals and priorities are. I think that would be a good thing. We could do it either at a work session or if you want to take a Saturday. And the problem right now is us all getting together in the same room. So if we can continue to entertain that, that would be a good idea, I think. Great, thank you. Anything else?
I have a question. May I ask you a question about that?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned the second part about the goals,
yeah,
which is great. But the first part that I think, at least for myself, and I would imagine for you too, all of us new people, is to find out what are the top 5 priorities that each department is in the midst of working on, and when is it going to be done, or is it a long-term? I mean, I want to know a recap of, where have we been and where are we going? I mean, there's so much that I'm in the dark about, like this community engagement thing. Are we still paying those people to have community engagement meetings about the short-term rentals or about anything else? And if so, have we already paid them? Do we have the right to cancel that contract? Does it make sense? What exactly is Public Works focusing on?
Julie,
this kind of thing, just to kind of like have a, like a recap of where have we been and what's in the works.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. And Denise has her hand up. She'd like to respond to your comments. Denise?
Julie, those are, or Councilor Wolf, those are great questions. We do have a work plan that is online that talks about each department and what their focus is this year and what their spending will be on and their capital projects and what each one of their major focuses are. Quarterly, we plan to come to council with an update on those so we can say, here's where we are, here's what's been moved due to whatever that may be. And right now, as you can imagine, with the circumstances, we'll probably be moving a couple of things. But that is a work plan. That's the first time the city ever put together an initial work plan. And I will tell you, it's not perfect. It doesn't have exact flow charts. It doesn't have Gantt charts, some of those things, but was an initial work plan. So we can plan on presenting that in the near future and have each department present it at that time, if that would be beneficial.
Great, thank
Oh,
you.
that would be fabulous. At least it would be beneficial for myself. Speaking for myself, that would be really informative for me. I appreciate that because that would help guide me as to what goals I want to have in the future. I don't want to decide my goals if I don't know what you guys are in the middle of, you know.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Counselor Wolf, it's kind of unique because we did that when we went through the budget season and each department talked about it. So it was very specific, but you guys started after that. So you're a little bit in the dark from what was discussed. So I think if we could do it at a council meeting, it would help you to be able to ask questions and to hear what each department is doing.
Okay.
Oh,
Mayor
thank you so much.
Mayor Pro Tem Fortune, you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say two things. One is that the work plan that I think you sent it out to us once, but it might be worth sending it out to us again. And that was very helpful. It was refreshing because we've never seen anything like that before. And two is we have tentatively put on, and this may be too late, but given current circumstances, it's hard to move it up. For the 12th of May, we had a placeholder to do council priorities, direction, and council goal setting. So I don't know, Julie, if that meets your need or if that's too late to be doing that sort of thing. Julie, are you there?
Julie?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that I put it on mute because I stuck something in the microwave and I didn't want it to beep at you. Sorry. I would prefer not to wait until May, just because it's so important. But I guess ultimately it's up to the mayor to decide the agenda. I asked for this at the very beginning when I first got on council, and I mentioned to the mayor that I'd really like to have some input on the agenda, and I was told you got to wait because we've got it completely booked up for the next 2 months. So that will be January and February. So now the 2 months is gone, and I'm asking if we can have this on the agenda. If everybody else wants to wait until May, I'll wait, but I prefer to do it sooner because it's just as important as some of the other little things we've had to spend our time on. Okay. So yeah, I prefer not to wait till May personally.
Okay. And Julie, one point on this, we entertained the idea of bringing a facilitator to help us work through the goal. And I know that we had targeted a date in March in the global, so that kind of got pushed out. So
I don't want a facilitator. I think that's a waste of money. Okay. I don't want a facilitator personally.
Okay, we'll look at get this done in April at some point. I saw some other hands. Susan?
Yes, I would, under normal circumstances, I'd be completely in agreement with Councilwoman Wolf, but since a lot of the dates for COVID-19 in terms of shutdowns and other things are extending out into May at this point, I just got a notification that UCCS is going remote for the rest of the semester, and that would carry us through the middle of May. That means that their staff isn't going to work at school. They're all working remote. And since Denise is doing so much, and Roy too, and all of staff, to understand what the situation is going to look like for us. I mean, keep in mind that the presidential administration said 2 days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, that they could go into July and August. And I feel like I want to know these things, but I feel like they're just changing so much because we don't have that information, that I would say that if we could review the work plan and review, the budgets, if we could do that independently and maybe address questions to Denise, Roy, or John Graham in the meantime, and we can continue to get updates every week, then, maybe even the month of May may be too soon, given if they keep moving this and closures into July and August. It's a totally different world for Manitou if we miss July and August. I mean, for busy season, if our restaurants are still closed, I don't know what we're going to do. And so it's not that I disagree with Councilwoman Wolf at all under normal circumstances, but in this, I just feel like we can study what we planned, and then we can keep getting updates, and then we'll probably have plenty of almost, I would dare say, emergency meetings, our emergency items on our agendas weekly going forward. A week or two, I think our town can recover from a week or two of everything being closed. Beyond that, I'm terrified.
Understand. Councilwoman Chandler?
Well, everything that Councillor Walbrecht said, only she said it more eloquently than I would have. So all of that, and just to, I think it would be good to put the May 12th placeholder to talk about things, but I also just some of the things we're working on. So we've canceled, for example, the Climate Action Earth Day potluck dinner. We've moved that to May. So a lot of things that we are, I'm sure that's happening to a lot of you too, things that you're working on, that we put a lot of time and energy. We're going to have to put a lot of time and energy again to reschedule all those. And I think right now with this pandemic, we can put that as a placeholder for the 12th, but actually we need to, we're in crisis mode right now.
That's true. We're in crisis mode. So Councilman Wolf, in light of these additional comments, what I might suggest is I would be happy to get with you at some time that works on you for your schedule, and any questions that I could answer background that might serve you in the near term. I'll do what I can, and then may have to point you to other people, but we could be perhaps answering some of your questions early on, and then do the goal setting session perhaps in May or whenever the conditions will allow. Would that be agreeable to you?
Well, I really like what Susan recommended.
Okay.
I do not want to impose on staff at a time when they're already busy and stressed out and maybe even stuck, half of them at home.
Yeah.
So it would be fine with me if we had Denise be the one to kind of give us the overview at some point. And then, yes, I would prefer to schedule it in April. And obviously, if there's an emergency and the town is shutting down and everybody's, half the people are dead already or something, I'm not going to insist on talking about goals. If we have an emergency, we have to deal with the emergency. But for now, if we could put that sometime, maybe a month out from now, just as a goal, that'd be great. I think it's just as important as a lot of the things that we've had to spend hours and hours on already.
Good.
And then, yeah, if there's an emergency, of course we can cancel it,
Good. Yeah, Julie, I think Denise would like to respond to a couple of your comments there. Denise, did you want to?
The one thing I can do is I can get the work plan out tomorrow so you guys can see that. Please know this is the first time the city ever did it, so it's not perfect. It's a work in progress. And then I was planning in April for staff to do, for each department head to do a high level overview of where they are and what their focus is at this point. That could change just because of the scenario that we're in and the issues that we're dealing with day by day. But I think that will be a start to give you a background of what this focus is.
Okay, great.
Great. Okay, thank you.
And then
And then
Denise,
are you okay with Jeff Parker addressing my issue next time so he has a chance to think about it and we can just push it to next week? Would that be acceptable to you?
well, Mr. Parker would be available on the 7th, on April 7th. That would be our next regular meeting. So would that be okay?
Yeah, that'd be okay with me if it's okay with you.
Okay, let's, Mr. Parker, would you like to respond? Judy's, yeah. Can we unmute Jeff Parker? Okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I just couldn't unmute myself there. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine looking at that. I'm not sure what the issue is, so maybe Denise could pass it on to me so I'll know what we're dealing with and I can work on a response.
Okay.
Oh, are you comfortable with that, Denise?
Does somebody have
the issue is my issue, Jeff. It's not Denise. This is Julie talking.
Yeah, I just thought that somebody had, it had been discussed at a meeting and there was some information that I needed to get to actually understand what I'm responding to perfectly. I can talk to you offline.
Why don't
I
you,
can elaborate now if you want, or I can talk with you privately if you want, or I can wait for 2 more weeks if you want.
I prefer not to wait so I can get you a response quicker. So whatever works for the mayor.
Okay.
Yeah. Julie, what I might recommend is could you articulate your questions in an email to Mr. Parker so that he'd be able to respond? You know, you have a clear idea of what you're asking.
Certainly.
Okay, so where we'll leave it, Councilwoman Wolf, if you'll articulate your questions and forward those to Mr. Parker, we would look forward to hearing his analysis, perhaps at the April 7th meeting when we have our next regular meeting. Agreeable?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
And-
thank you.
Great, thank you. And Denise, you typically like to end the meeting with your action items? I think we're at that point now.
I don't think, except for the incline and the shuttle, which we will get on first thing tomorrow morning and get that moving. So I will give everybody update as we get that going. So those
Okay.
are the only action items at this time.
Great. I believe we're done. Okay, so the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all and get some rest.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.